Today is US Memorial Day and also marks 80 years since the US troops came to Aotearoa before they left for World War II battles in the Pacific. The US Embassy commemorated the day in a special ceremony yesterday at the Auckland War Memorial Museum.
Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave?
There was also a performance of a very special waiata Kiwi Weka written by Kuia Mite Kukutai Karaka, and is a love song about the many Māori and Pākehā women who found comfort in the arms of frightened young US troops. It was sung in a ceremony by the composer's great-granddaughter, Theia. And joining us to tell us about the day is Cultural Coordinator at the US Embassy, Louisa Opetaia of Ngāpuhi Te Rarawa and Hamoa. Louisa, welcome to the program. So how did the ceremony go yesterday?
Oh, kia ora, Piripi. It went really well. We had about 100 people come through representing various US and New Zealand Aotearoa military, as well as presidents from various RSAs across Tamaki Makaurau, as well as family members of servicemen who have served in the military for the US.
And can you talk us through what was involved in the ceremony?
Yeah, so the ceremony's been going for about 74 years, and it was started by some of those servicemen who had come to Aotearoa and had gone away to those, battles in the Pacific that you talked about, and some of them returned because they had met, Māori people and met New Zealanders, and they really connected. And so they started the ceremony, 74 years ago, and we carry it on to this day.
Kia ora. So you were instrumental in organising Theia to be involved. Tell us about why you thought it was important to have her there to sing the waiata for her kuia.
I have heard that song many times, but I didn't really realize the connection between Aotearoa and the US until just recently at Anzac Day. I saw Te Rongotua, a show on Māori television, and Theia sang the song there, and I was like, oh, she needs to come to my ceremony and sing that song, because I feel like her, breathing life into that waiata and me connecting to it and realizing what the actual connections are is what everybody needs to know. And so, yeah. So I invited her to come along and share the waiata, and thankfully she was available, and so she came through.
So what was that connection and the meaning that the waiata signifies that you found out?
Yeah, so ultimately it is a love song, and it talks about, it likens the flood of Americans that came. So thousands of troops came 80 years ago into Aotearoa, and going into marae and going into communities was a part of what they did while they were here. And so that song, it's a love song, and it just talks about, the heart, and it likens those American troops to the northern migrating birds that, come, I think of, the kuaka that comes from North America and travels down to Aotearoa, but it only stays for a short season before it returns again. And that's what the kuia likened those connections to. So we're the Kiwi Weka, we're the birds that stay here in Aotearoa and look after the eggs, and the kuaka is the one that comes down, but then it leaves again.
Ka paike. What was the response to the rendition by the vets and the people who attended?
Yeah, I really wanted to do it in a respectful way. Obviously, the ceremony's been going for a long time. Lots of people come every year. They're kind of used to it going the way that it always does. And I wanted to add a little bit of, youth and vitality and life to the ceremony. So we completed the formal part of the ceremony, and then we added the waiata at the end as a tautoko, I feel, and also just as a mihi from tangata whenua to our the Americans that have come down and their descendants who are still part of this ceremony to this day. So some of the New Zealand military that were there were like, oh, how can we get Theia's number? We want to get her to come and sing at our ceremonies as well. So I think they must have been impressed because they want her to sing again.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. So the US troops were here to strengthen New Zealand's defences against a possible Japanese attack in World War II. What was the impact that they had on the country, and what legacy did they leave?
Yeah, so it wasn't just the personal connections. They also did things like they built roads while they were here. They created dams, and so some of those are still in use today. So the impact that they've left behind on the landscape still exists, but also the impact that they made on the hearts and minds of the people. You know, I still remember old elders talking about seeing the Americans in their uniforms looking so handsome and sharing, you know, lollies and candy with the tamariki, and so they really did leave an impression on the hearts and minds of the people as well.
Kia ora. Look, what other activities does the US Embassy have organised this week to commemorate 80 years since the US troops arrived in Aotearoa?
Yeah, so we had our ceremony yesterday in Tamaki Makaurau. They had one today, this morning, in Te Whanganui-a-Tara, and later on this week and later on this month, there will be commemorations at Paikakariki. There's a memorial there, and yeah, the tangata whenua and the mana whenua of that area also remember, you know, those troops that came. Up in Northland right now at Whangarei Museum, there's an exhibition on called Tora Tora New Zealand, and it recognizes the impact that those troops had in Northland as well. So they went all throughout the motu. And yeah, we just kind of want to remember that 80 years ago, those young men who were really far away from home, they made a connection here. Unfortunately, some of them carried on into the Pacific and they lost their lives and they didn't ever get to go home. But, you know, no matter what your thoughts are on war or your, you know, your politics, I really just think about those young men and how it felt for them to be so far away from home. Just like our Māori battalion were making impressions on the local people in Italy and in Greece.
Kia ora. And I'm certain the descendants of those soldiers appreciate the important work that you're doing. Luisa Opetai, Cultural Coordinator at the US Embassy, thank you very much for taking time out to speak to us today.
Kia ora Mufasa. Oh, I mean Piripi.
Tēnā koe.